Yes! Oh, man. It's Friday night, and what else would you rather do than sit here and talk football? And I got a special treat for you. I got Gooch, a.k.a. the talent, and I got Big Chief Shawn, but you know what? They're running late. And guess who stepped in and is replacing Gooch? I got Keys, who's the K of the Backtalk Brothers. Keys, welcome, brother.
Hey, thanks. Does that make me, am I special K or am I the talent now? Like, how does that work?
You know what? I have no idea how that does work, but I'm just glad that you're here because when I was promoting the show a little bit, I wasn't sure if you'd be able to make it. So I'm really glad that you're here. Big Chief Shawn mentioned something about he was having a lady named Bertha over, and I'm sure Bertha could be a very fine, lovely woman, but he mentioned he may be running a little late, so. It's understandable. It's understandable. So, but I am glad that you are here. I'm ready to talk football. I'm, you know what? Normally I send out some show prep, and I don't like doing this, but I'm going to sandbag you anyway. Just how excited are you for football season?
Oh man, listen, I was watching the XFL, and and I had to move during the USFL, so I didn't really get into it, But I'm definitely ready for the NFL season to start.
It's funny because I've been kind of dreading it because 5 consecutive conference championship games at Arrowhead, right? It's funny because people aren't talking about what an extreme accomplishment this is because it comes right off the heels of the Patriots doing 7 consecutive. And we broke that streak in 2019. Of course, the Patriots ended up, getting the better of us. But before that streak of 7, the only other team to do 5 straight, you have to go back to 1970s, and it was Madden and the Snake that were the only other team that's hosted 5 consecutive. So there's only been 3 times in NFL history that this has happened, and I don't think Chiefs fans really get how special and unique this is. And I kind of want to hold on to it. So I was like, I rewatched the Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl several times. I've been kind of, man, I just want to, because I think once it ends, it ends. But I am also very excited because I'm just a junkie. I'm just a junkie.
Finally, he admits he's a junkie.
I'm drinking coffee today. I'm having coffee. It's not cocaine, believe it or not. I got One Pride 40. He says, "Yo, man, One Pride 40, man. I'm glad to see you, brother. I got Slasher coming in. Yo, Dan and Keys, what's up, fellas? Man, we're here. We're talking football. We're going to answer all your questions. Anything that comes in, we're going to go ahead and answer all your questions. I have some Chiefs topics, and the main reason I have some Chiefs topics is because in Keys, I want to make sure I give credit to where credit is due, because last year on your show, you kept on talking about Pacheco right around now, and you guys were saying how Pacheco is going to end up the starter, and I was kind of like, let's slow up. He's going to make the team, but over under 100 touches for the year, I would have said under easy, and I would have bet a large amount of money on it. So, I mean, I got to give that. Was it you who first was talking about Pacheco, or am I giving the talent too much credit here?
I don't remember. I know Gooch had a lot to say about him. He dug deeper into his time at was it Rutgers?
Rutgers, yeah.
So Gooch knew some of those things, some of the coaching things, and it really went back and looked at his first each year that he was in college and how he found something that he was bad at, and he worked his butt off to get a lot better at it. And so, whether it was that, I think it was probably Gooch. For me, there's hype. Every year there's a Chiefs rookie receiver that's hyped up. And the Justin Ross thing is covering it. It's blended into year 2 since he didn't play last year. But Pacheco just felt differently, and part of that was just the position. I'm not a believer in CEH, and so I mean everything was there, So
I got to give you guys a lot of credit because as you guys were talking up Pacheco, I was kind of like, hold on. And I'm going to throw you another curveball here. If Pacheco was a second-round pick and CEH was a fifth-round pick, do you think Pacheco would have won the job straight out of training camp?
I don't think so. I think I don't think like the pedigree part had that much to do with it. As far if Pacheco had been drafted earlier, I think there's a huge part where you have to get used to the NFL. You have to get used to Andy Reid's playbook, what he's asking, and it's a different question if you're saying that Pacheco didn't have the flaws that he did, when he was much more prepared to be a third down running back. Then I think it's a different question. But, I mean, he's not a 3-down running back at this point, even yet. I think he'll be there because, again, going back to what Gooch said, he identifies what he needs to work on. I mean, he has a hell of a work ethic. So I think he'll get there because I think he cares enough, about pass blocking, pass protection, that he's going to get there. But I think it's going to take him another year or two to get to that point. I don't know if I answered your question at all, but
no, that's exactly right. Because I'm really curious, and it's one of these hypothetical questions that we're never really going to know the answer. But I wonder if CEH wasn't a first-round pick, if he would have ended up getting the starting job straight out of training camp. I was not high on the pick. I really wanted DeAndre Swift, who's in Philly, but he was my number 5 running back off the board. And I wasn't sure about Jonathan Taylor. I know he wasn't really that much of a receiver coming out of Wisconsin, but if you ever, as an Iowa fan, Wisconsin doesn't throw the ball very often. So I was kind of worried about that. I was really high on Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins, who's in Baltimore. And that's kind of a weird situation there. I mean, if he stays healthy, he's really talented, but he's missed more games than he's played. But we have been joined now by the talent. We got Gooch on board. What's up, brother? All right, and he's muted right now, but he's here. He's in. He's excited. I got Slasher says, "Yo, Dan, what's up? Yo, Dan and Keys, what's up, fella? Slasher, man, it's great to see you, brother." I got Funk. He's in. He's saying, "What's good tonight, fellas, man? I got a great show for you, man." Big Chief Shawn said he's going to come around, but he's got his girl over. He's got his girl over. He may be here a little late.
Nobody believes that Big Chief Shawn is with the Berthas because Dan would be going to his house right now. Everybody know, your fans know that, Dan.
I don't know where he lives. Or maybe I would be over there. I don't know. I mean, you never know. We've been talking about going and getting something to eat during the summer, and we haven't done it, and that's on me. Maybe he's mad at me. Maybe he's getting something to eat after all with Bertha. So.
What's up, Gooch?
All right, we got what's good, and Funk is saying, just want to say y'all better be ready for Pro Hop Week 1. It's a problem for everyone. We lost Gooch, but I got Big Chief Shawn. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? How's everybody doing tonight?
Hey,
Shawn.
Big Chief, there's a rumor that you got a girl over.
Yes, especially a little lady, but we won't talk about that right now.
Funk says Friday pass her around to take her to the Katy Perry. Oh my God.
She lied to me. She told me that she loved Taylor Swift, but here we are at Katy Perry.
Right. So we do have it confirmed. Big Chief Shawn did have a girl over. So I knew it was something, man. One Pride 40 has a great question here. Let's start it off here. Who's the biggest threat to the Eagles? Funk says it's Niners. Big Chief Shawn, man, we'll start off with you, man. Who is the biggest threat to the Eagles?
Do you mean like in the NFC, the division?
Yeah.
NFC?
Yeah, NFC
The-
here.
oh,
Well, let me ask you this here. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that the Eagles are the top dog in the NFC, but is there enough?
Let's try that again.
All right. Hey,
What's up, fellas?
hey, fourth time's a charm. I'm just glad we got you, man. I'm just glad we got you here.
I'm just happy we all together.
I'm happy we're all together, man. I was just saying, man, Shawn, me and you supposed to get together. We're supposed to have some fried Twinkies, some fried Oreos. And
That is the dream.
That's
It will
that's
happen.
Me, man.
It will
It's
happen.
going to happen. It's on me that we haven't got it done yet. Funk has a great question. I'm sorry. One Pride has a great question. I'm curious what you guys think here. I mean, let's assume the Eagles are the top dog in the NFC.
That's
Who's
good
the
as
biggest threat?
I would be surprised if we don't all have the same answer, but the biggest threat to me is going to be, well, even though we don't know who the quarterback, the healthy quarterback starting is going to be, I got to say the 49ers.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know how you can't say that. I mean, I guess you could question, will the defense drop off? Losing D'Amico Ryans. Who's the quarterback going to be? There's definitely some question marks there, right? And the 49ers always have great seasons or injured seasons that see them like below 500. So, I mean, there's some legitimate reasons that you could throw out against them. But I just think that Kyle Shanahan has now had a whole offseason to tweak his playbook for Christian McCaffrey. And I think that just amplifies what that offense can do. So, if it's Brock Purdy, whatever they do with the offense, I think it's got to be the 49ers. But I still think there's, a few other legitimate teams or teams that, I have question marks on that I think could get up there, including the Lions.
Well, you and Funk agree there. Big Chief Shawn, who's team number 2 in the NFC?
Team number 2 in the NFC, because when you talk about the NFC, unfortunately, there's really not too many teams that you can just say that jump out and pop at you. I mean, the Niners is a safe bet, but I'm having this weird feeling, and usually when I have them, I usually go with them. And I'm having that Rams might be at a reemergence. I don't think it's going to be as total as the Niners, but I can see LA actually making a run for the NFC, really.
They're 2 years removed from getting to a Super Bowl. You still got Aaron Donald, you still got Stafford, you still got Cooper Kupp, and you got the best coach in the NFC. I'm kind of surprised that more people aren't higher on the Rams, because what they did in the draft was actually really brilliant. They got a bunch of young players.
Yes,
and the one thing they didn't have was depth. Well, now they got young, talented depth. A lot of people are sleeping on the Rams. That's an interesting pick. You got them as number 2?
I actually do.
All right. I like it.
I might be overemphasizing this, but one thing that the Rams also got was McVay got his wife pregnant, and she's due this fall.
I didn't know that.
I think there's a little factor there.
It might be. It might be. And we got Gooch kind of in and out. Gooch, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, man. Who's team number 2 in the NFC?
I've got 2 and then 2B.
All right. Let's hear it.
So I'm with Keys. 2 is the Niners. Brock Purdy is on pace to start the season. Barring any setback, Shanahan said he's the guy. And they absolutely love Sam Darnold for some reason. And the Niners are loaded. They are probably the most complete team in the NFL, position-wise. And they started last season under 500 and then just made a run.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And Purdy was drafted late, but, as we all know, late doesn't mean no talent. You just need an opportunity. And my 2B team, and I hate that I'm saying this, but it's the Cowgirls.
Yeah.
If McCarthy can get out of his own way and they can put up points, that defense is going to be amazing because they drafted some people that are going to make it possible for Micah Parsons to run around free. And that kid's dangerous. On top of the fact that, like, I know Stephon Gilmore is old, but you know what he's got? He's got wisdom. And you put him on the other side of Diggs, and you're probably looking at a top 5D in the NFL. So all really McCarthy has to do is put up 24, and they may win a lot of games.
You know, don't forget you got Brandon Cooks. He's coming over. They got Jalen Tolbert. First name freeze of the day here. Michael Gallup, that's the name I was thinking of. So you got 4 talented wide receivers there. And McCarthy, he wants to throw the ball. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's funny because Keith was thinking we're all thinking the same thing. We got 4 different teams. I think it's the Saints. You got a team with a really good defense. I'm worried about Demario Davis. He's 35. Cam Hayward is 34. The Honey Badger, I think he's 31. So you got some age on that defense. But they had a really good defense last year. Now you got Derek Carr. Now you got Mike Williams healthy. Now Kamara's going to miss some games, but come playoff time, he's going to be there. And who's challenging in the NFC South? I mean, is Bryce Young going to be ready right away? I know he's quarterback number 1. Come on. Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield, they're not scaring me. Atlanta, me and Keith were talking about Lou. I'm going to butcher his name, Amarulo, the Bengals defensive coordinator. He's like, why, who's the team that he's going to get shot for? I'm like, Atlanta, if they don't make the playoffs, that's probably a new head coach. I think the Saints are favorite to win that division. And they're the only team I think that is the big favorite to win that division. One Pride 40 says you can make an argument for the Lions. You can, but that defense needs to make a big jump. The one thing about the Saints, they have a legit top 5 defense. So that's kind of my thought process of it too. Slasher says the Lions don't worry me as much as the Seahawks, Cowboys, and Saints. Kind of all of our picks there, except I'm sorry, Keith had 49ers instead of Seahawks, but I think Detroit and maybe even the Giants. None of us even mentioned the Giants.
I was going to.
I mean, that's another. I think with Barkley, you got to get the Barkley situation ironed out. But I think Detroit has the ability this season to edge out from the middle of the pack.
The Giants don't scare me until Daniel Jones shows me that he can throw the ball. Like,
Daniel Jones has a lot to prove. He doesn't have
this is the season they need to
finish.
take the leash off and just let him go and see what they've got. They already gave him the contract. He can't be. I mean, he has to be able to throw the ball more than 17 times a game. That's my opinion.
I don't agree with the contract they gave him, but I watched enough Giants games last year that I was actually impressed with Jones because they didn't have receivers. And I thought he was doing a pretty good job without receivers. All of a sudden...
They had receivers. We just ended up getting them on Kansas City.
All of a sudden, if Darren Waller can stay healthy, you're in year 2 under Dable, who, is the one that I gave most of the credit for Buffalo. And they've added to the receiver room. If Waller can stay healthy, I think Jones is going to look better this year. I don't think he's ever going to be worth what he got paid, but the market is whatever the market is. So, but yeah, I can't knock Jones. I wouldn't have gave him the contract, but I think he looked better last year, to me anyway, than what you guys are making it sound like he did. So.
Yeah, I mean, and you keep in mind, I don't think the Giants, without Saquon Barkley, I don't think they have anything. I really think they need Barkley and the defense. The defense is young and talented. I mean, they do got talent all over that defense. Secondary's a little weak, but it is kind of funny. None of us really, focused on the Giants, and it's kind of neat how the NFC is, because we do all agree, though. I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I mean, we all agree there, don't we?
Oh yeah, I mean they
for the
got
most part, yeah.
they got so much better getting rid of Gannon as their defensive coordinator that I think that bumps them up even more.
Slasher says week 1 games are weird funks. That's why the spread for the Chiefs and the Lions is so low, only 6.5. Everybody's getting motion, getting back into real time. The first couple weeks you kind of want to iron things out, but there is a certain coach in Kansas City who's 9-1 in season openers. I'm just throwing that out there. Montgomery has an undisclosed injury and is questionable for week 1 on the injury report. Same thing with Rodriguez. Walker already has an Achilles injury. I don't focus so much on the injuries in June. I kind of lean into it like around August and September. I mean, there's injuries that happen in preseason every single day. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and that's why I'm going to be every Friday. The defense in Dallas goes as D-Law goes, and Dallas is talented. I'm just not sold on the organization and the coach. The talent's there. Keep in mind, I mean, none of the injuries are season-ending injuries. It's not like, you have a fractured leg or anything like that. Linebacker, Rodriguez is linebacker number 4. Monty is fine, according to Dan. Walker just got cleared to practice from an injury last year. All right. And listen, hey, Funk, keep us informed, because us Chiefs fans are really curious about who's going to play and who's not week 1. So we definitely want to hear about that. Right. So, Matt, you guys, what's better than a threesome of 3 guys as a 4th guy. So I'm really glad we can all be here for this foursome. The question I'm going to throw out to you is training camp. What training camp battle or position for the Chiefs are you most interested in? I'm going to start off with our special guest Keys here, who joined us. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to make it, so thank you so much for joining, Keys. What training camp position are you kind of looking for in preseason?
I got a couple, one on the offensive side and one on the defensive side.
All right.
I'm going to go with the wide receiver room on the offensive side. I just think there's so many question marks, and not like in a bad way, but just so many, unknowns. We don't know if Kadarius Toney can stay healthy. There's been rumors that the Chiefs see him as the number 1. There's been all the Justin Ross hype. They added John Ross and Richie James and brought back Justin Watson on a 2-year deal. So there's all of these questions of, one, how many receivers are they going to carry? That's always the big debate. Is it going to be 6 or 7? Personally, I'm leaning towards 7 again. They shocked everybody last year and took more receivers than were expected. And then it's who's going to be, the odd men out, because I think basically everybody has locked in that it's MVS, Toney, in some order, MVS, Toney, Sky Moore, and after that, it's kind of a fight where you have a lot of people who have Justin Ross locked in and whoever else. So that's the first thing I'm looking for on the offensive side. And then for me on the defensive side, it's the defensive line. And part of that is, you're bringing Tershawn Wharton, who's back healthy. They quietly re-signed, at least for me, I missed it, but they re-signed Danny Shelton, big old 360-pound defensive lineman. Is it Keandre Coburn in the middle there, and Charles Omenihu, great defensive addition. All these guys coming in. You lose Frank Clark. Carlos Dunlap is still out there as a free agent. You draft FAU year 2 out of George Karlaftis, who just seemed to get better and better as the season went on, and he's been working with Tamba Hali and some martial arts instructors on hand fighting and all this other stuff in the off season. So, you got all of these things coming in together, and it's, to me, that, you know, that's kind of the big question is who actually takes a step forward, and what's the defensive line going to look like? What's that room going to look like? Because if they can keep taking steps forward, it's going to help the secondary a lot, in my opinion.
No, I agree with everything. That defensive line room is going to be interested. And, you know, another thing is that the Chiefs in the playoffs used a lot of 11 personnel. I mean, do they want to keep 7 receivers and 4 tight ends? I mean, that's quite a bit. That's another thing, you know, that you got to think about is are we going to cut back on tight ends so we can keep an extra receiver?
But we don't have a fullback anymore, so.
You know, you're right. I didn't think about that. So we're maybe keep 4 tight ends and 7 receivers, which threw me for a loop last year. Big Chief Shawn, man, preseason battles for Kansas City, training camp battles. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest one is the wide receiver thing, because, you know, everybody wants to see who's going to be the new faces of the team. But I'm actually looking at tight ends. Everybody knows Kelly. Obviously, everybody knows. But I want to see Jody maybe. But I think the biggest thing, y'all know me, I love my defense. I always got to have it. So I'm always going to be looking at defensive line and linebackers. That's why I'm really going to keep my eye on this year. Jones is asking for money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people are coming in and out. We do have Gay, and we do have you know what I mean? We have okay, and Chanel's getting better, but we've gotten some good drafts this year in defense, and I'm really very, very anxious to see how the new linebacker core is going to react. Like who's really going to be that second place, the third down switch ups, the first, you know what I mean? Like I think I'm going to go defensive with this one, defensive lines and linebackers. Really, I think that's the one I'm really trying to put my eyes on.
So kind of the role of Willie Gay and Drew Tranquill, like what is his role and what is
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Drew Tranquill, he was a starter in LA last year, and he was a really pretty damn good player. I was really surprised that we signed him in free agency because we drafted Leo Chenal in the 3rd round.
Right.
And I'm wondering, are they not happy with Chenal? You know, is this a move where like Willie Gay, because if I'm correct, I think this is the last year of his contract. So are they going to move on from Gay after this year? That's kind of an interesting story. To Tranquill, I was really floored by the Tranquill signing because I thought he was a pretty good player with the Chargers. He was a starter, and he's coming to Kansas City in a reserve role, and that's kind of what you want to see. You want to see good players from divisional teams willing to come to Kansas City for a lesser role, and he's not taking a starting job. I mean, do you guys think? You guys agree with this? Tranquill's not not taking the starting job here, is he?
You know what? I think he's your 3rd down linebacker, and I think he.
Give me a second. I'm going to answer both of those. Go ahead, Keith.
I think he's your 3rd down linebacker. I was reading that he had the green dot, you know, and what they've done so far. And I'm just going to throw this out here because he played safety in college, right? He could be your guy who is your Tampa 2 linebacker, you know, because he's got that range. He's your cover linebacker. I think number 1, he's your cover linebacker. You know, so it's kind of a question of does he overtake Willie? And right now, in that role, I'm leaning towards yes. And I think maybe that helps them use Willie more towards what his actual abilities are geared towards. Go ahead, Gooch.
Oh, no, keep talking. I'm in the middle of something. I'll get you.
All right. And I also thought the defensive line was interesting. One thing that me and Keys were talking about, it kind of seems like the Chiefs got a lot of 3-4 parts in their defense. I mean, keep in mind the terms 4-3 and 3-4 are kind of going outdated. But when I look at this defensive line, a guy like Danny Shelton, Derek Noddy, Colburn, our 6th-round pick out of Texas, these are all 3-4 guys. These aren't the 4-3 guys that we're used to seeing, especially under a Spags type of defense. It looks like they're changing some things up. And I thought Karlaftis was better suited to be an outside linebacker. FAU, I definitely thought was an outside linebacker. I was adamant. I didn't like that pick, even though he's a local kid. But if the Chiefs are going to play more of a 3-4 type of defense, you got to have more linebackers, and maybe that's something that they're switching to, and that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because I think that's why I'm really keeping my eye on it. Because if you notice in the draft, we really went heavily defensive and defensive tackles and linebackers, even though we feel kind of solid. Like, I agree with all of y'all. I think they're like looking at the future. They're trying to see what to do here. Because, after this season, a lot of people are going to want more money. A lot of great players. They cannot be denied. So, that's what's going to really interest me this year. Like, who's going to want to step up in that position? Like, who's going to really, make an impact? You know what I'm saying? Isaiah Moore, or, there's so many people. Truman Jones, there's a lot of possibilities. BJ Thompson is sitting out there, maybe able to beast out. Who knows? It's very interesting this season.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think the only guy that we know in our linebackers that's going to be the constant building block is Nick Bolton. I mean, I don't think he's going anywhere, but except for that, I think everything's wide open, and that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm going to give you my two, and I'm going to go defense first. As I'm looking at the secondary, because we got L'Jarius Sneed. All right. Probably are going in last year. He was our number one corner. We got Trent McDuffie, right? All I'm hearing about is the Chiefs are raving about Jalen Watson. So my draft crush is the number 4 guy, and that's Joshua Williams. And here's the deal. If you don't know his story, he went to a small school. If he played in the SEC, probably would have been a second-round pick, but he's 6'2", 195. Played a little bit last year. I don't know the numbers, but I think Watson may have played more than Williams. I'm not sure about that. I'm kind of curious because he's a big guy and he's a raw guy. Is there any chance that he may move over to free safety? That's something, because if he's your number 4 corner and he's a core special teams guy, do you even try to put him at free safety? Here's the other thing. We signed Mike Edwards from Tampa Bay. Byron Cook really made some big plays last year as a rookie, kind of an unsung rookie that we didn't even talk about. Does he get elevated to the starting role? Because he was a prototypical strong safety. I remember that AFC Championship game. He ran over. He caused the interception. He didn't make the interception. He had the deflection. And I don't know if you remember the play that I'm talking about, but he went over. Basically was playing center field and went over to the sideline to make that deflection. That type of speed and athleticism, I didn't know he had. So, here's a guy, I knew he was big. I knew he was a hitter. Is he a guy that can be a free safety as well? I'm kind of curious about this because, I mean, if Joshua Williams, a guy that I was really high on, if he's number 4, you take a big guy, speed, physical, does he have a future at safety? Are the Chiefs even messing around with that? These are all interesting corners. And has Jalen Watson done enough to lock down the number 3? Because one thing about McDuffie and Sneed is that these guys can play inside, outside. You can get very creative. And if your best receiver's in the slot, you could put both these guys in the slot. So I'm really curious what they're going to do in the secondary. And then my biggest concern is the offensive line. When we signed Jawan Taylor, I thought the plan was to move him over to the left side. Then we went ahead and signed Donovan Smith. I'm hearing Wana Morris, the 4th round pick? Yeah. I'm hearing he's taking first team reps at left tackle. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I didn't know this until after the draft, but apparently him and Trey Smith were best friends coming out of high school. He was a transfer. They were teammates at Tennessee, and then Morris transferred to Oklahoma. But Andy Reid's been raving about him, and Andy Reid's an old offensive line coach. Is there a chance that a 4th round pick is the starting left tackle at the beginning of the season? I've seen weirder things. I mean, Trey Smith, he started as a 6th-round pick day one. It's something the Chiefs have done before, so I'm really curious to see, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know who our 2 starting tackles are. We got 15 back there. I kind of like my offensive line to be set, but I mean, is there a chance a 4th-round rookie is starting left tackle for the Chiefs opening day?
Yeah, I think that's hard, but I do think we know who one of the tackles is. It's Taylor. We just don't know if he's the left tackle or the right tackle.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
He's getting $20 million a year. He's the starting tackle.
He's definitely the starting tackle. I remember coming out of Florida, I thought he might be better suited for guard, but that's not the case. But is he going to play on the left side or on the right side? I heard that they're using him on both sides in training camp. They're just having some fun with the offensive line.
Right.
But I mean, could we go into the regular season with a left tackle who's a rookie and then Taylor on the right side? That's kind of a big story. Left tackle is a big, it's kind of an important position. I want that Pat guy in number 15 to be healthy. So I think it's a big deal. So, but those are my 2 things that I'm really, really excited about. And it's kind of neat because we all gave different answers. And I was kind of expecting all you guys to say offensive line, but I guess, but you said defensive line, and then Big Chief Shawn also had defensive line, and that's something. Right. O'Monahue was kind of an underrated signing.
So sorry about that, boys. I have a buddy that I actually like, which you can count the number of people I like on one hand, less than, and. He was 150 pizzas down, so he put out an SOS and asked if I'd come help him. So I was kind of pushing through that. Sorry about that.
Hey, we understand, and it's kind of funny, Gooch. We were talking about training camp and things that we're looking for. All 3 of us had different answers, so I want to see if it's going to be 4 for 4. So let me ask you, and what training camp position or battle are you most excited about?
First off, can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear
you. First off, I'm going to put out there that there are going to be some people cut that you thought were locks on this team. That's what I really think. That I think you're looking at the roster right now with the 90 man, and you're like, oh, for sure that person. And I really think that there's going to be some surprises, partly because I don't believe the Chiefs thought they were going to get this much talent to sign with them. So they were kind of doing bridge signings until they could find someone. And 2, the Chiefs are only $7.5 million in dead cap this year, and that wipes out. So they would be able to swallow a couple million if that meant keeping the best roster available and you had to cut somebody, in my opinion. I think the biggest thing I'm interested in, and I think I heard somebody say it, I'm interested in the linebacker training camp battle because Tranquil's here, and I don't know if that's if Willie's not getting it all. And so they brought somebody in maybe to either teach him or kind of slide him out.
Shawn.
He was a starter in San Diego.
Yeah.
And so, or is it still? No, it's Los Angeles. I'm sorry. I'm also interested in the defensive backfield because we drafted that Connor kid, but Nazeeh Johnson is still here, and Toad thinks he's the best gunner in the league.
You know what? I left out. No, I had secondary because I'm really curious how that secondary is who's going to play, who's going to start, and then I had a major man crush on Joshua Williams in the draft, and I'm hearing all sorts of good things about Jalen Watson. Let me ask you: are you with me that if he's number 4, if Joshua Williams is our number 4 corner, because he was a raw prospect coming out of college? Do you even try him at free safety, experiment with him? Because he is a core special teams guy.
Well, see, that. What do you do with Connor then? I don't think they keep more than three. I don't think they keep more than three safeties.
Really? Wow.
Because you're going to have Snead, McDuffie, Josh Williams, your crush, Jalen Watson. That's already four corners. I think Andy is going to carry more wide receivers, and I think he's going to carry 8 linemen, offensive linemen.
I could see 8 offensive linemen. I could see 8 offensive linemen. I'm using ESPN, which is not the best source, but I'm looking at the ESPN depth chart, and to tell you the truth, I could see 8, maybe 9 offensive linemen.
I don't think they'll keep 9 because I think they're going to bring there's too many people on this team that are talented that you don't want to get away in case.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Now you signed Donovan Smith, but he's 1 year into his next payday. He's going to try and get one more big paycheck. I think the Donovan Smith signing was to give Juwan Howard a year that while he's playing right to get accustomed to left in practice. And then they're going to bring that 4th rounder from
Oklahoma.
I can't think of his name. Yeah.
I pulled it up here. I butchered his name, but Juanito Morris. And are you seeing? You're hearing the same thing I'm seeing. Is that he's taking first team reps at left tackle?
He'll probably be the swing this year.
Let me ask you this: is there any chance Morris starts day 1 at left tackle?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Trey Smith started day 1 as a guard. He was a 6th round pick.
Yeah, but I'm going to take a thing from Keys here. The investment of $9 million. I'm not paying you to sit the bench. I'm paying you to protect the $500 million man.
I had offensive line, and Big Chief Shawn had linebackers, and I was floored when we signed Drew Tranquil because I really thought he was a good player with the Chargers. His biggest problem was just not being able to play all the time. He missed a couple of games due to injury. I wouldn't call him injury prone, but that was the only issue. He played pretty damn well. And I was really surprised because I'm thinking, is this guy coming in here just to be depth, part-time? But you think there's a chance he could replace Gay as a starter?
I want to know what the Chargers offered him that he turned down and accepted a 1-year deal from us.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they offered him a deal.
I'm not sure, but I do want to talk about the Chargers. I think it's really interesting that both you guys brought up linebackers because with bringing in Tranquil, I was kind of wondering if they just are not as fond of Leo Chenal because he was playing more and more as the season went on, and I thought he was playing pretty decent. Funk brings up, side note, did you see Jordan Love wish the Bears a happy Father's Day? Made me laugh twice. First he's done that. Yeah, I saw that, and I think it's cute. But, man, I mean, when you haven't really played, he better be good.
Here's the thing. I think he was trying to talk trash and doesn't know how to do it.
That's what I thought. Do you remember when Love played at Arrowhead? He looked really bad.
Yeah.
He did not. He looked. Let me.
A little better than Malik Willis. But
that's what I was going to ask. Who looked better, Love or Malik Willis?
But Malik Willis didn't have Devontae Adams, so you know.
Here's the thing. You're playing behind a surefire Hall of Famer, and the first game is in the loudest stadium in the world. I'm probably thrown off a little bit too. The Chiefs fans are crazy. Yeah. You seen Mr. Lone Wolf? I'm not gonna say his name. Yeah.
Hey, we completely forgot to talk about special teams.
No, yeah, we didn't talk about special teams at all.
Because we need to see
that's a big deal.
We need to see a healthy Harrison Butker, and we need to see Tommy Townsend actually be dedicated to holding. I thought it was interesting. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was interesting that we gave him an original round tender, so we were basically okay with letting Tommy Townsend go for nothing. We had the right of first refusal, but we didn't even tie draft pick compensation because we didn't want to throw that much money.
We had his brother on the practice squad, just as well.
Well, it's funny because I think we gave Butker a decent contract, but Townsend, we were like, what? Part of it is also that maybe the Chiefs just don't expect to punt much this year. Hey, we were the number one scoring offense in the NFL last year, so I mean, a Big Chief Shawn.
To be fair, we haven't punted much in the last 5 years. I mean, as Dustin Cole quit that 1 year, I think he punted 5 times off. That was the best contract he ever signed.
I remember Dustin Colquitt was our best offensive player. That's how long I go back to being a Chiefs fan. One Pride 40 asked, "Did Big Chief Shawn have fun with your girls?" So
they could have been more entertaining, but I was sitting there watching old Chiefs videos, and I let the time go by, and they had to go.
Hey, Big Chief Shawn, we are happy that you let the Berthas go.
Yeah, man. They look. You only had 2 choices. Okay, let them stay, or talk to all of y'all. That's why they go.
Well, Dan wanted you to tag him so he could track him.
Check this, man. There is nothing wrong with Big Berthas because the number one thing they're gonna do. Yeah,
me and Big Chief Shawn, we've been talking about this. We're going to get together and do some fried Twinkies, and we're going to do some fried Oreos. We haven't got done yet, and that's on me, Big Chief Shawn. So I hope you forgive me.
Oh, it's all right as long as we're still doing it.
We are doing it. We are doing it. Before I get into my next question, One Pride 40 asked a fantastic question. I was hoping somebody would ask. And I'm going to start off with the talent here. Excited to play the Lions week 1. Gooch, what do you think, man?
I feel bad for Detroit.
Oh, man, throws the gauntlet bad for Detroit. Lions fans, I know you're here, man. I know you're here. I love it. I love it. Big Chief Shawn, man, are you excited?
You know what I'm saying? But I think.
You said, am I excited to play the Lions?
I mean, we're One Pride 40 asks, are you excited to play the Lions week 1?
Is that a preseason game or is that a regular
That's
game?
week 1. Thursday.
Really? They made. Why did I?
Thursday night to kick off the season at Arrowhead.
I would tell everybody.
Are you gonna be there tailgating Thursday?
More than likely, yes, because I got to get my butt back out there to get the content dropping. But
we all want more Big Chief Shawn videos, man.
But am I excited to play practice? I don't. I'm sorry. I said that out loud. I wasn't supposed to say that. Look. I congratulate Detroit fans for their loyalty, and it will help you to get through the pain after the game. But the question should be, are the Lions fans excited for playing us week 1? Our excitement for playing the Lions is about as exciting as playing the Ravens. It's still a dub no matter what happens. So it's just wondering if the Lions are going to enjoy, week 1. Y'all want to start out fresh. Y'all had a nice little win streak last year and kind of want to keep that going, but it looks like it's come to an end. So, I mean, am I going to enjoy it? Of course I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to record people drunk out of their minds laughing at who we're playing week 1. So you need to ask the Detroit fans, are they going to have a good week 1? Because
it's funny because the Vikings fan base is one of the most underrated fan bases in football. They travel. When the Vikings have come to Arrowhead, there's a lot of purple. Bears fans travel well. Packers fans are famous. the last time I remember Detroit coming to Arrowhead, Barry Sanders was the running back. So I don't know how Detroit fans are going to travel. I don't know how much Honolulu blue and silver we're going to see at Arrowhead. But I do love this part here. One Pride says we're getting the upset. I love this. And so, Keys, let me ask you, man, excited to play the Lions week 1?
Yeah. Hey, now listen. I think this game is, let me say this. If you're going to bet on the game, I think you take the over. To me, this game is going to be very similar to a time the Chiefs played the Rams, who had Jared Goff as their quarterback, and it was, 54-51, something like that?
Yeah.
The
Rams got the win.
You have two great offenses. Okay. We already know that Andy Reid, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are the differentiators in this matchup, but you still have two high-powered offenses. You have one defense that I think is definitely better, but always starts out slow because Spags is always tweaking and experimenting and doing what he does up until the bye week, and then he makes his changes, and once he's learned who can do what, he starts building the defense around that at the bye week. Detroit, you've already talked about how bad their defense was last year and how much they need to improve it. I think they got some good pieces, but the problem is you don't start out, this isn't Madden. Just because you start collecting, 78, 80, 85 rated guys or, whatever, even when you draft guys, they don't start out, at the ability that you're expecting out of them. So I think the biggest thing in this, outside of Andy Reid's record, starting the season or any other time that he's got a bye or a long period to plan for it, is really that, it's a question of whose defense starts out slower. And I just think that you got to give the edge to Kansas City because their defense was already better by the end of last year. And it's not like Detroit's additions to the defense have been so good that they would put Detroit ahead of Kansas City to begin the season. So, that's kind of my thing. The offenses are both going to have new wrinkles. I would expect Detroit's offense to be, much better. Yeah, they're going to be without some guys, because they don't understand gambling rules, but that's neither here nor there. I still think the offense is going to be that much more exciting off of last year. So for me, I think those are the similarities. Obviously, the coaching and the quarterback, Kansas City's much better. And yes, I'm saying much better. You're talking about a Hall of Fame head coach in Andy Reid, Hall of Fame play caller in Andy Reid, and the best quarterback in the NFL right now. They're that much better. But the offense for Detroit is still no joke. So even if Gooch and Shawn are throwing, that stuff out there, they should take Detroit's offense seriously. And
Okay,
I think
so
it's going to be a blowout.
So I might be a little. I might have been a little.
Why? I didn't say it was going to be a blowout.
I might have been a little facetious with my take, simply because what scares me the most about that game is Dan Campbell. He is a master motivator, and he's got those guys willing to run through a wall for him. And I think if he starts out like, yeah, they put you against the Chiefs because they don't expect you to do nothing, like they're just trying to embarrass us on one of the few primetime games that we have, blah, 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 and he walks them in there with that chip on their shoulder, and the Chiefs get hit in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? You could be looking at, I wouldn't say 54-51, but you could be looking at something very interesting in week 1. The reason why I initially said they threw him into the Lions' den kind of tongue-in-cheek is because the banner's going up that day. You know what I'm saying? And the Chiefs aren't going to – the only time the Super Bowl champion – there's only been 2 times the defending Super Bowl champion has been embarrassed. The Bills did it to the Rams, and we did it to the Patriots. And you don't want to be on that short list. On top of the fact that Petty Patrick is finding all kinds of motivation to come out this year and just keep his foot on people's throats. I like Goff, and I'm glad he found a home in Detroit. I don't think McVay valued him as much as he should have, because Goff took him to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did.
You know what I'm saying? And the one bad season he had before they traded him, he lost his all-star running back. He had receivers go down. Donald wasn't playing up to Donald's level, and they had a really bad season. And then they kicked him. So I'm glad for him. I'm happy for him. I could see them winning that division and getting into the playoffs. I'm excited for it. I want to see them on something other than Thanksgiving primetime. I just think it's a bad matchup for them. And Keys said, that Spags' defense always starts out slow. I think the difference this year is we played all our rookies last year, so he knows what all of our starters are going to be and what most of their backups already are. So he can unleash the hounds early and do the tweaks on everybody else.
That's true.
Hey, Big Chief Shawn, did you have something extra you wanted to add?
Well, I didn't want to say it was going to be like a blowout or anything like that, but we do. And you're right, Keys. We do have to recognize the offense, and that's true, though. But to ignore our coaches, starting game record is pretty darn impressive itself. And I know, especially Andy has this switch where he knows, you can't ride on the Super Bowl forever. The lights, the glamour, all that kind of stuff is eventually going to fade, especially week one. And we take every team seriously. I truly believe that. I still do. I know there are some games we are very laxed in, but I don't think it's going to be the Lions. I'm just saying that I know our boys are going to be focused for week one. It's going to be week one, Arrowhead Stadium. That place is going to be packed, and people are going to want to see a show. And unfortunately, Detroit ain't going to be a part of that show. And I'm not saying that Detroit is not a good team. I'm not saying they're not going to have a good season, because they are. They have a solid defense. Their offense is actually working, and their coaching is improving. I just know that Andy Reid has a goal for at least one more Super Bowl before he retires. So this will probably be the best time for it, because a lot of teams are unorganized, and a lot of teams are still trying to get themselves together. And we're still a good cohesive unit. And I know that I have this eerie feeling that Reid knows that his window is closing. He needs just one more to solidify himself as a true legend. Even though he's going Hall of Fame, he's got his jacket ready, warmed up and everything, and he's got a cheeseburger in the side of the pocket. It's still week one is very important to him. And we all know this just by his record alone and how he feels. That's the only reason why I said that. I'm not saying that Detroit is a bad team. They misconstrued me on that. I'm not saying they're not a bad team, because they're pretty, like I said, I even mentioned it last year. They went on a pretty good run before the end of their season. It seemed like they were getting all their ducks lined up in a row, figuring out what they were, figuring out their identity as a team. But you coming in the Arrowhead Stadium with Patrick Mahomes already ready to show off ring number 2 right before that, because they're going to do that ceremony right before the game. They always do. I just see it too, the lights, the sounds, and this team is still fresh, still trying to get its own identity of what they're going to do this season. So that's the only reason why I say that.
Well, I'm going to give my 2 cents here. The answer is, yeah, I'm very excited, and I think it's a great story. You have the king of the NFL, which is the Kansas City Chiefs, all right, the reigning Super Bowl champ, and then you have the up and coming contender, which I'm going to tell you something. A lot of Chiefs fans don't know what Funk's saying. The last 10 weeks, the Lions had top 10 defense, allowing less than 20 points a game, but you keep telling yourself what you need to sleep at night. Funk, you're right, because Chiefs fans don't know this. Andy Reid does. But it's such a great story because you have 2 very contrasting teams, but you have 2 very high-powered offenses. So I think it's a great storyline because you have the up-and-coming team, maybe the best team in the NFC for the last 2 months, but didn't make the playoffs. And then you got the king and the castle in the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think it's just a great storyline. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not gonna lie to you, Funk. I'm not gonna lie to you, One Pride. I feel really good. When I say really good, I'm gonna bet on this game. And I'm taking Kansas City. Now I don't know if I'm gonna take the points or not, but I'm definitely betting Kansas City money line. And I will say that. But everything that you guys are saying about the top 10 defense, Andy Reid knows that. And by the way, you are 100% correct, One Pride. Hutch in Houston may cause some major problems. Their defensive front seven could be a problem. It could also not be ready yet. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that front seven. So I am excited, though. I am very, very excited. And I know Keys is really big on Laporte. I mean, that's one thing me and Keys were. I think me and Keys both liked. I think I might have liked Lucas Van Ness a little more than you did, Keys. But we both liked a lot of those Iowa prospects coming in to the season. Riley Reed, even though we're both upset that he went to Denver. I know his name's not Riley Reed, but I'm going to keep calling him that. We can call him the Great White Hope. I'm going to call him Riley Reed. I'm going to keep calling him that. But yeah, Riley Reed, Jack Campbell, Laporta, they were all players me and Keys are really, really, really high on coming out of Iowa. The Iowa defense actually last year was a lot of fun to watch. I need to watch more college football. But in One Pride, you're 100% correct. Amon-Ra and Laporta are going to attack the middle field. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a fun game.
It's going to be a fun game. Be honest, I am excited about the game. I just know the conclusion of the game. I'm honestly, I'm saying it from a biased fan standpoint, but it is going to be an exciting game. I mean, hopefully they will take that momentum that they had last season and bring it into this game so we can actually enjoy it. Because if they don't, Keys, you even got to recognize if they don't, it's going to be a slaughterhouse because they're going to have a lot to prove. Like Mahomes, he wants more. I wouldn't call it greed. I would just call it being opportunist. Like he can see this season can be taken too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm saying like too much.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is consistency, though. Like, you can throw up numbers. You can talk about their defense the last 10 games. All right, let's talk about the last 3 games. Okay? They gave up 37 points to the Sam Darnold-led Panthers the third game to the end of the season. The second to last game was against the Bears. So, you know, I'm not saying they didn't make improvements, and I'm not saying because I think everything I had said was very respectful of Detroit, but it was also trying to remain fairly objective and logical and not just going to extremes. And I think you guys went to the other end, Lion fans, on this, because for every argument, there's probably a legitimate counter argument. The thing is yeah, you know, Hutch is good, right? Houston's good. Yes, the Chiefs, we don't know what they're doing at their offensive tackles, but we do know that Andy Reid is one of the top coaches in the NFL when it comes to his scheming to protect his offensive tackles. We also know that the Chiefs probably have the best, if arguably the best, interior offensive line. So the offensive tackles should be the concern on this. We also know from the playoffs, because we had Orlando Concrete Feet Jr. and Andrew Wiley as our offensive tackles, unlike Super Bowl 55, where I completely lost trust in Andy Reid because he started 4 new guys at positions on the offensive line and didn't protect them. They played something like 95% 5-man protection in that Super Bowl. This whole playoffs was completely different. Andy Reid protected his offensive tackles. So, as Dan said, they know the steps that Detroit has taken to improve. They still have some inconsistency, though. And with having new offensive tackles, I would expect nothing less than Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and Andy Heck to make sure they have their A game when it comes to protecting their offensive tackles in this game. So, again, I said I think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout, very similar to that old Rams-Chiefs game where it was Goff versus Mahomes, where it ended up being 54-51, 104-point game. I think it's going to be very close to that. So I'm not disrespecting the Lions at all. If I put the Chiefs as the ones with 54 and the Lions with the ones with 51, when, it's going to be a home game, as Gooch said, you're going to have the celebration that night, and you still have the best Hall of Fame offensive coordinator / head coach, play caller / head coach, and Andy Reid, and the best quarterback in the NFL. I think it's going to be really close. And when you look at all those factors that push the Chiefs over, I'm not disrespecting the Lions, but the comments I'm seeing are going way to the opposite extreme, and maybe that's because of reacting to Gooch and Shawn. But I mean, try to be realistic and objective with this is all I'm going to say.
And One Pride 40 has a great point. He goes, are you sleeping on them? If you do, I think that might be a mistake. I'm going to start this off. I am absolutely not, and I don't think the Chiefs are. I'll start with Keys, man. Are you sleeping on the Lions? It doesn't sound like you are, but I want you to speak for yourself.
No way am I sleeping on the Lions. I've already made it fairly clear here. I think I've made it fairly clear every time I've been in the comment section or on the show, because to me, the Lions are going to win the NFC North, but I am intrigued to what Brian Flores, helps with the Vikings defense, to add to that though. And I have the Lions making the playoffs, and I've already said it.
Really?
It's going to be a very close game. So I'm not overlooking them at all.
All right, Big Chief Shawn, man, are you sleeping on the Lions? Are you just chalking this up as a W, or?
I'm not sleeping on the Lions. You can acknowledge talent and know who's better. You know what I mean? That's why they try to do like Ford versus Ferrari. You know what I mean? Or just be like Chevy versus Ford. You like both brands, but you know which one can be superior to the other, but both of them being good.
Tell us which one that is.
Yeah,
it's the Chiefs. We're superior. Like it's
out of Ford and
Chevy. I'm kind of curious about that too.
Oh, you said Ford. I'm a Chevy man all day.
I didn't know that. That.
Yeah.
I have no dog in this fight, but I'll say this, and I don't know what someone can tell me if there's a reason for this, but I don't know how many times I've been sitting next to a Chevy at a stoplight, and their car or truck just dies, and they have to restart it.
It must be an old Chevy, or maybe
no brand new ones. And it's not just been a few times. It's almost every time I'm next to a Chevy and we're both at a red light.
This is
their
first
car
on the
restart.
show, Ford versus Chevy. This has never been done. This has never been done on Dan Talks Football. Ford versus Chevy. We've had bands, concerts, movies. Never had a Ford versus Chevy. I love it. I love it. First time for everything. Gooch, let me ask you, man. I mean, are you sleeping on the Lions? You just chalking this up as a W?
I'm chalking it up as a W because I'm a Chiefs fan.
Okay.
But if we're going to be realistic, and a lot of people are like, tell yourself what you want, blah, blah, blah. I understand you're a Lions fan. That's fantastic. The Lions haven't had a winning season before last year since 2017. They were 3-13 2 years ago with Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. So they've had one winning season that was 9-7 or 9-8 or whatever it is, because it's 17 games. I'm saying, like people try to tell us, temper back expectations, because the NFL, with all the parity and stuff, it's not, the good teams usually stay good, and the ones learning how to be good take a step back every now and then. Yes, I love Aiden Hutchinson. Huge fan.
Big fan, right here.
Huge fan. But overall, and the Lions had a top 10 defense, and I wish I would have thought about who all they played those last 10 weeks, but overall, our offensive line is loads better with Wiley and Orlando Brown gone. And you could pull up Donovan Smith, and he had a whole lot of holes. He was playing with a bad elbow, and he played all year. And Tom Brady was still one of the fewest sacked quarterbacks in the league as a statue back there.
I can tell you the teams if you want to know, Gooch.
Sure.
They played the Packers twice. They played the Bears twice. They played the Giants, the Bills, the Jags, the Vikings, and the Jets and Panthers.
So the only loss I see in there is the Bills.
They lost 2 games. One was Carolina. They got blown. Carolina, it was just a weird fluke. And Funk, I remember that Giants game. I was adamant the Giants are going to win that game in New York, and you corrected me, and you were right. And Funk is right. All streaks do come to an end.
I just think with the new pieces and the fact that they just started to win, I'm not trashing them. I think they'll be good. I think they'll win the North.
But there are 2 people here think that they're going to win the North. I find that very interesting.
Because I think they're good enough to do it.
North is for
like I have more trust in Jared Goff and Dan Campbell than I do in Kirk Cousins, Jordan Love, and the boy with Chicago. What's his name? Fields. I would rather, if I was in that division, I would rather have the quarterback that's taken a team that wasn't star-studded to the Super Bowl over any one of those other guys.
Let me ask you this here, Big Chief Shawn. Can we do 3 for 3? Do you have the Lions winning the North?
Oh, that's I want to be a part of it. Man. They're a good team, but I don't know, man. I'm kind of seeing Chicago or Minnesota actually making moves.
Right now today, I think I still got Minnesota winning the North, but yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean,
don't get me wrong, the Lions are a good team, and like I said earlier, the North is up for grabs. Green Bay might get off their butts and do a little something, but I don't know. I really see Minnesota or maybe even the Bears doing something.
I think Minnesota's a bad call.
Really? I mean, here's the way I look at it.
I mean, I get
they
why.
had that division locked up like early December. It's a 13-win team. They had a bad defense. They bring in Brian Flores. I have a hard time seeing that defense not improve. Losing Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to hurt. But, I mean, I think the offense is going to be really good.
Here's the thing, though. Minnesota won 7 or 8 games.
I know Funk knows this number.
By less than 1 touchdown, and you never go undefeated in those games back to back. Like, you're going to come back to the mean. So if Detroit, which I think Detroit can go, I actually think Detroit can go 11-6, 10-7.
That's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm thinking like 9 to 10 maybe. Something.
And if Minnesota comes back to the mean on those one score games, I think Detroit edges them out in that division. I really do.
I just thought that was interesting. I wanted to see if it was a clean sweep in the guess here.
Gooch, do you think, because I think Dan and I are on the same wavelength here, I have a crap load of respect for Brian Flores. So does bringing him in help with their point differential? Even if you say the offense stays the same, or even if it loses a little bit, can Flores improve that defense enough to where you don't have that same 3-point margin to 3, 4, 5, 6-point margin, because the defense is that much more improved? And I think he does, because I think people overlook what Miami's defensive line was while he was there and what he schemed it up to be.
Oh, Flores is a G. You know what I'm saying? There's mad respect for Flores. I think he only took the Miami job because Belichick was getting all the praises for how that defense was behaving, and it was more Flores than anything else. From what I understood, the way that Belichick started running it lately is, Flores would hold his meetings, and then Belichick would stick his head in and be like, let's tweak this, and then he'd be gone again because he had to have his hands in everything. And I I'm with you. I think Flores can make the defense better. The problem is that the way that the league is headed, it is built for. I mean, let's face it, as gunslingers like Jared Goff, who's willing to just kind of, put it in the wind. Mahomes, I would say Josh Allen, but y'all know how I feel about him. Burrow, you know what I'm saying? Like, the offense is built to that. The rules are built to that. And I think no matter how good, and this goes for every team, including the Lions, with the rules with the rules set in to put you at a disadvantage, I think that in the end it won't make much of a difference.
All right.
The offense that's clicking on that day is going to win.
All right, fair enough. Now I'm going to read some comments, and then I want to get into question number 2. I got my girl, Hey Girl TV. She joined. If you're into fashion, fragrance, and here's the thing, she did a special thing for me. She's doing a special on the men's fragrances, just for me. So she's saying hello. Golf threw 1 touchdown in the Super Bowl where he did ride Gurley's coattails, and then Gurley got hurt, and Funk, we know all streaks come to an end. That's kind of why I was like kind of wanting to hold on to that Super Bowl win, but I'm also very excited because I'd love to get back to back. Golf's 2 years and no, the last 2 years weren't pretty. Let's see here. I'm not saying the Lions will win, but I really think I'd enjoy listening to smug Chiefs fans. I understand, Funk. I do understand.
Funk, if I am probably one of the few people, unlike everybody on this panel, we're all probably pretty much the same. If the Chiefs start 0-1, I could point out, unlike most Chiefs fans, will be like, oh, the refs, or oh, this, that, and the other. If we would have gotten that call, if they were, I'm one of those people. I will point out what everything the Chiefs did wrong during that game. Like, this is why y'all got your behinds beat. You know what I'm saying? I am not one to make excuses. I can tell you the reasons. You know what I'm saying? I am big on that. When Mahomes throws his interceptions, when everybody is still like, oh, Patrick can do no wrong, first thing I say is, did you see his footwork? You know what I'm saying? Did you he wasn't even he was looking down that receiver. That's why he threw that INT when he had this person crossing over wide open. I mean, I am not smug enough to believe that my team can do no wrong. I am quick to point out flaws.
I think the other thing though is, and I can't speak for the evolution of other Chiefs fans or even other fan bases, but we're at the point now where 5 years into this or whatever, one game isn't our Super Bowl.
Right.
For Lions fans, this very well may be your Super Bowl, and you'll know that if you brag about it all season. If the Chiefs lose this game, it's on to whoever. We'll be like Bill Belichick. Well, not every Chiefs fan, but those of us who understand the long game. That this is 17 games in a season, and losses, it's like anything else in life. When it comes to losses, when it comes to failure, you can either do one of two things with it. You can let it eat you alive and turn you into a hermit in a way, or you can understand that's an educational opportunity, that you're getting a very valuable lesson to improve and grow and get better. So, whether it's on a micro level with individual matchups, whoever our offensive tackles are, any young guys that may be getting snaps, whatever the case is, and it goes for Detroit too. Whatever team loses, you usually gain more by losing anyway, because if you're winning, you don't look at the things that you did wrong and need to grow from with the same intensity, the same scrutiny and the same concern as when you lose. So, one game isn't going to make a difference. So, at the end of the day, it's nice to throw, the Andy Reid stat up there, but it's more of just a factual thing, not a, Dan hates it when I say this, but, stats and whatever the stat is you want to throw out there, those things are descriptive. They describe what has happened, what has traditionally happened. They're not prescriptive. It's not determinative of what's going to happen on the field. So I think nobody should believe that's the case. Any given Sunday is a thing for a reason, but I think the thing is you get to where Andy Reid is with a stat like that because he has a very, very good process. And it either takes someone who has a better process, better team, or in this case, because the head coach and QB combo are so much better, and that's no disrespect to Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, that's just reality. But because the QB and head coach combo are so much better, sometimes it just takes luck, and that can happen. And that doesn't mean you're a bad team if you win with luck.
If you're going to lose a game, you want it to lose to a non-conference opponent. I mean, if the Chiefs opened up 0-1, I'm like, oh, good, let's get the loss out of the way against an NFC team, because I'm looking at week 2, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think that could be a game that I'm kind of like, ooh, because I want to keep that streak of AFC conference championship games at Arrowhead. I want to keep that alive. So if we do lose a game, let's lose to Philly, let's lose to Detroit, let's lose to an NFC team. I don't want to lose. One Pride 40 has a really great question. I'm going to touch base on this here in a bit, because the second question, by the way, I'm getting such a kick out of this. There's so many weird topics that come up, and this is what all questions are answered, anything goes, but Ford versus Chevy is something I never thought I would come on my show. So I love this.
I'm a Chevy guy.
Keys, is there a clean sweep here? You a Chevy guy, or are you Ford guy?
I don't really have a dog in the fight. I guess if you pushed me, I would probably go Ford, because of the old school Mustangs and stuff. But, I mean, at the same time, I could go back earlier than that. And I think my favorite car of all time is 57 Chevy Bel Air. So, but, again, all I said was simply the observation, and it's true. I don't know. There's probably a reason for it. I just know that
Funk puts in the reason right here.
Outside of hybrid cars, of every make and model, every Chevy that I've ever been, it doesn't matter. It could be a 90s Chevy, it could be a 2000 Chevy, a 2010 Chevy, whatever the case is. It seems like every time I'm at a stoplight and there's a Chevy there, I hear them have to restart their vehicle.
He may just be bad luck for Chevy, so I just have to keep mine away from you. You know what I'm saying? Because I haven't had any bad luck with mine, and you talking like that, brother, I have to go buy a Honda or something to come visit.
One Pride, we're all going to talk about this in a second. In just 1 second here, I want to go over.
Can I put something?
Yeah, throw it out there.
I'm not even going to say undercover. I want the Lions to do well, because one of my favorite players of all time is Barry Sanders, followed by Megatron. And I liked the Lions even when they were doing bad, so I want them to do well. And in all honesty, as a Chiefs fan, if I was to lose, I would rather lose to Detroit or Philly, not because it's non-conference, but because the one thing people who win their first Super Bowls, and I'm going to use McCole Hardman as an example, when you win that first one, and you may say, oh, it's going to take a lot of work, but in the back of your mind, you might think it was easy, so you don't have to do any extra work for the next year. And so I actually believe that in some cases, people start to get cocky, and they need to get hit in the mouth and reminded that this isn't, this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to put your nose back to the grindstone. It's going to be twice as hard to repeat, because you're the hunted. You know what I'm saying? You're no longer the hunter and trying to get there, running with rookies and this, that, and the other. You're the established. You're the king of the mountain, and everybody's trying to knock you down. And sometimes you need to remember that just walking out on the field isn't guaranteed to win. So I would be like, good job, Detroit, if they won. But as a Chiefs fan, I don't want them to win.
No,
I'm just saying, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm crapping on the Lions, you know what I'm saying, because I'm a Chiefs fan. I understand the talent and all this, that, and the other. I understand that. And any given Sunday and the NFL, not for long. That doesn't mean just your career. That means your status is one of the big dogs in the game, period. You know what I'm saying? Just as easy as you got there, you could fall back down the hill. I just don't think that they're going to it's not a case of motivation. I just don't think in week 1 they're going to be ready. Now, if you were to tell me we had to face Detroit in week 15, 16, or 17, that would scare me. Because
I'm doing the most trash talking here, but I am going to bet on this game. I'm taking Kansas City. I'm going to put some money on it. I think I'm doing trash talking.
And I'm not even bringing up records or anything else. Like, Detroit is a good team, but they traditionally start out slow, and they would scare me later in the season than they do at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to read some comments here, and I want to get to my second question here. Instead of winning 12, we win 11. 11 can win the NFC North. I think that there's going to be a 9-win team that could make the playoffs this year. One Pride brings up something because when Stafford got traded, I said it would be 2 number ones, and One Pride said 3rd-round pick, and I'm completely lying. One Pride said 2 first rounds, and all that. And no way you're getting 2 first rounds, and I was dead wrong about that. Funk has the stat 11-0 in one-score games, and that is a crazy number. And I think the talent is right, because that's probably going to even out. One Pride 40 sent me something. Another YouTube channel did a ranking of the 32 quarterbacks. I had multiple disagreements. Overall, it's a good video because Mahomes was number 1. He had Cousins at 8. If I remember correctly, he had and I was like, Cousins over Rodgers? Yeah, they lost Zarius Smith, but they still have Danielle Hunter, and Danielle Hunter is really, really, really good. Who's the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC? That's the question I want to ask next. And I want to ask my panel here of experts. And hey, Gooch, man, I'm going to start off with you, man. I'm going to start off with talent. Who is the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC?
That's a really good question.
Putting you on the spot.
Actually, you know what? Until somebody proves different, it has to be Cincinnati.
You and One Pride seeing eye to eye here.
I'm gonna conjoin somebody else's comment into this. Cincinnati did everything they could. I mean, we can argue all day about the Orlando Brown signing, but Cincinnati did everything they possibly could to get better. Eventually, they're going to have to pay Burrow, Chase, and Higgins if they're going to keep all of them, and I don't think they can. And that window is open for now. For those of you that might be listening and think, well, Joe Burrow went to a Super Bowl and lost us an AFC Championship game. And the Bills, and everybody loves the Bills for some strange reason. I think the Bills are going to have to rebuild. I think that their best opportunity was the game they lost in 13 seconds. I think that was their time. And I think I saw an interesting fact on the Twitter, and I went and looked it up. But no coach and quarterback have been together 5 straight years and not won a Super Bowl. And if they haven't won it in the first 5 years, they never win one.
Wow. That's a great number.
And this is year 6 from McDermott and Josh. And as I have been telling people, when Josh was on his MVP run, that's not Josh Allen. Even Key said it. That's not Josh Allen. That's Daboll. And as soon as Daboll left, Josh fell back to what he normally is. Mistakes and turnover prone and all of that. And that's why him and Diggs are having the problem now. I'm just saying it has to be Cincinnati. I think there's a gap. I think there's Kansas City at the top, right below them, Cincinnati, and then a gap, and then this will surprise you, I think Jacksonville.
Funk says Jacksonville as well. So let me see if I got your did I let me make sure I'm getting this correct. So you got number 1 Kansas City, number 2 Cincinnati. Did you say 3 Jacksonville?
I did.
Okay. You and Funk a lot. It's kind of weird because it's funny. We're doing some trash talking, which I love. It's great, but it's kind of funny that you and the Lions fans agree with what looks like 1, 2, and 3. Except, hey Funk, do you think Jacksonville's number 2? Or do you think it's Cincinnati? Let us know in the comments. And then Big Chief Shawn, who is the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC?
The biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC. Well, I mean, the Bills are a safe bet. I mean, they always are a safe bet. The Ravens ain't going nowhere. Bengals, they don't know how to spend money correctly. So if I'm just going to throw a little brand new shade out there, I'm going to say the Jets.
Oh, I mean, the defense is fantastic. They got weapons now. They got a new offensive coordinator.
The one thing that either is going to make or break this season is is Rodgers really that determined? Was he just talking, or was he really like, hey, I need to get this one last ring before I call it quits? Because we all know he's out the door. Everybody knows it's not a secret. He's working out or whatever he want to call it, blah, blah, blah. It's all for the TV. But if he's really that determined to win to where he gave up basically lifetime money so he could go somewhere and probably do something he hasn't done in over 10 years, they could be a force to mess with. He has something to prove. Miko has something to prove. Those new rookies have something like they're if they buy in to what Rodgers is selling, they will be that threat. I think they're going to be.
That the defense is good, and I can tell you another thing me and Keys completely agree upon is that the Brees Hall has all the tools to be an absolute superstar.
Look, that's my man crush. I just want to throw out there that
was your man. I know Keys loved them, and I loved them. I didn't know you were a fan also.
Oh, Keys got me on it right before draft. And I started watching. I was like, man, I really like that guy. I just want to throw out there that Aaron didn't walk away from lifetime money. When they traded him, the Jets reworked his contract. Aaron Rodgers is getting $100 million this year. This is not – he didn't turn away nothing. They reworked that contract. He's getting fat money. And it's only for a couple more years. I think he's motivated. I don't see it. I think they can – win that division because I have no faith in Tua turn the ball over. But I don't think they're a threat yet.
Let me throw something out here. One Pride 40 brought this up earlier, and is the dynasty dead in New England? Are they a possible threat?
New England?
Yeah.
Is Patricia still their offensive coordinator?
No, it's Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, your boy, Bill O'Brien, the Bama offensive coordinator. He's returned to New England. And
New England is definitely a threat. I would answer that the Bills' window is closed simply because of a multitude of things. The stat that Gooch pointed out that I retweeted earlier this afternoon, about the McDermott and Allen being together, which is why I was so surprised, and I know we'll get to this in a minute, about the contract extension for McDermott. But I think when you look at the rest of the AFC East, and again, I think every division is loaded with question marks and loaded with excitement on paper. I'll put it that way. But when you look at New England, and I have an appreciation for Matt Patricia's football intelligence, but that experiment was absolutely horrible last year. And the things that I'm surprised that Belichick let him screw up the run game as bad as he did. So, I mean, going from Patricia to Bill O'Brien, he's not the GM or the head coach, so you're fine there. I think between that and, some of the players that Belichick drafted, like the NFL letting Christian Gonzalez, is that his name, fall into his lap. And they finally made some of the offensive moves they needed to move, and bringing in Juju, and he's got the bum knee, which is why Veach, was hesitant about giving him any real contract. But I think there's enough there on paper to, if you're a Patriots fan, to be a little bit excited about, at least being 8-1. But as Gooch and Big Chief has pointed out, to me the Jets looked like a great team who had no quarterback. Right? We've seen plenty of teams like this before. I have no reason to doubt Robert Saleh at this point. The defense is legitimate. The offense, needed a quarterback, and we've been saying that about other teams in past years. How many years did we say that about the Broncos? But Zach Wilson was the fourth worst quarterback in the NFL in EPA per play. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers was great last year, because he was more of middle of the pack in that area. And he did bring a lot of his receivers with him. But, as Big Chief said, there's still McCole Hardman there. They still have Garrett Wilson. I mean, there are tools there that when you add Aaron Rodgers to that team, as long as he doesn't screw up the team chemistry, there's no reason that you wouldn't expect the Jets to greatly contend for that division and possibly actually be a challenger to Cincy or another team. But I do disagree on the Dolphins, though. I'm not necessarily a believer in Tua, but I do have a similar appreciation for Mike McDaniel as a play designer. I think he had a whole year. He's got an offseason now. He sees where, maybe he screwed up or didn't utilize Tyreek and Waddle the way he should have. And all he has done is added more speed at the receiver and running back position during this offseason, not to mention upgrading his defense by trading for Jalen Ramsey. So his two cornerbacks are Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. So to me, you got to throw them in there. I don't know who wins the AFC East, because on paper, it looks like a hell of a dogfight, but you can say the same for the AFC North. You can say it for basically both of those divisions. You can say it even not as much for the AFC West, but way more for the AFC West, in my opinion, than the AFC South, which seems to be the easiest division to decipher.
Yeah, I agree with you, because
which means it'll probably go backwards than what I just said.
Yeah, so One Pride 40 points out Cincy 2, Jags 3. And it's kind of funny, because I think Jacksonville is – I really do. I think Jacksonville wins that division hands down. And but I agree with One Pride, though. I think it's the Bengals. The biggest question I have with the Bengals is that the defense – Lou Amarillo, and I'm butchering that name. I apologize. Me and Keys were chatting. He should have got a head coaching job. and he's probably going to get one next year. But the reason why, when I break down a team at the end of the year, I use a very simple plus-minus scale, and I give the Bengals a minus. And even though they added Orlando Brown, the main reason I gave them a minus is because they lost Jesse Bates, and their corners are average at best. Jesse Bates really helped that team out, and they used him all over the field. Now, they planned for this because they drafted Daxton Hill, and he played a little bit of corner last year for them, but he's going to be the replacement. He played some free safety. He played some corner in college, but he's a second-year player. He's replacing a superstar in Jesse Bates. Can you do without that guy because he kept together a lot of the deficiencies. And also they have two really good edge rushers that really helped out. Are you going to get that same type of performance? And then you're also, the first round pick, Miles Murphy, he's going to have to contribute this year because when I look at the Bengals, that secondary is not very good unless Daxton Hill can play up to Jesse Bates level, and I don't see it. But team number 2 for me is Cincinnati. And I think Buffalo's window's closed. I'm scared about Jacksonville. I think that they're building something really good. And I think that the dynasty is over, but I'm still scared of New England. So
I'm going to throw one out here that's going to shock everyone.
Let's hear it.
So, again, all of this is on paper, and we know, what on paper means, but at least on paper. So the logic flows anyway. I'm going to say that if things are even close to how they look on paper and they can stay healthy, the Chargers are going to be right up there because Herbert finally has an offensive coordinator who is going to make his life easier and is going to amplify the offensive performance of the Chargers. Now, Staley is still there, but can Moore and Herbert, can that combo lead them to score enough to cover up for Staley's screw-ups, at strategic screw-ups as a head coach? So I would kind of put him there. And that's not disrespect. I love Doug Peterson, and I think Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence is a great head coach QB combo. But, I think people are sleeping. Everybody loved Herbert. And then Lombardi just... So I think the Herbert, Kellen Moore thing there, I think that gives them a great push if they can stay healthy and Staley, cannot trip everybody up, which is why I also think that Dallas is going to take a step back.
It's funny because that's a perfect segue into the next question I'm going to ask is that what team in the AFC West can challenge Kansas City? Before I get into that question, I want to read some comments here. Funk says, what's crazy is Cousins actually has some pretty good numbers after he became a starter. 8 out of 9 years, he had over 4,000, even a 4,000 or 4,900 1 year, and averages like 2.5. He's put up great numbers. The one thing that I'm really curious is because they haven't signed him to a long-term deal in Minnesota. Washington didn't want to sign him to a long-term deal. I'm kind of curious because it's now becoming public that him and Zimmer just hated each other. I'm kind of wondering, is Cousins just a complete asshole in the locker room? Is he just somebody nobody likes? Because there's 2 teams he's put up great numbers for, and they just don't want to deal with him. And I'm kind of wondering what's the deal, because it looks like Minnesota's more than willing to move on after this year. I'm kind of curious. Hey Girl TV is working, and Hey Girl, I'm glad you came in and said hello. You know I love you. I love my Hey Girl. She's married, guys. She's married, so it's something, it's something there. One Pride 40 says all love here for Big Chief Shawn, even though he was ready to throw hands down with you, Big Sean, and he was also giving you a little bit of grief here with the Big Berthas, but yeah. Cincy and Jags, the Jets. One Pride 40 asks, what about the Finns? Keith brought up some really interesting points. I'd like to know your guys' opinion here. Big Chief and the talent here. What about the Finns? Are they a threat in the AFC?
I mean, they can be. It all depends. Their defense has to really step up. Like, yes, they have the offensive weapons too, cause damage. You know, Mostert and Tyreek and maybe Tua, but that defense will be the one and really, really big reason of what if not they could be a threat this coming up season. But if I had to compare them to the other teams on my list, probably no. I don't know. That's just me.
And the Tyreek situation is going to throw, that's going to add to that in one way or the other.
That's something we didn't even talk about was what was the story? If I heard right, he slapped a marina worker. Did you know who I am thing, and it's kind of looking kind of messy. I'm unlike a lot of people. I'm not sold on McDaniel. A lot of people think like this is some great coach. I'm like, how are you getting a great coach? I mean, what's he done? And I don't see it. But the one thing I want to point out about Jacksonville is that the AFC North, I think all four of those teams are dangerous. AFC East, all four of those teams are dangerous. I'm looking at the AFC South, all four teams are dangerous. The AFC East, all four teams are dangerous. In the AFC South, I'm looking at Jacksonville and three other teams that are trying to figure things out. And that's kind of something, even though I think Cincinnati's the number one threat, I'm looking at Jacksonville and I'm like, man, I'm really scared. But Gooch, is Miami a team that we should be scared about? Well, he's on mute here. If he gets off mute, he can jump in. Okay. And what about Miami?
I think it's tough, man. If Tua is 100% healthy, I think they're a threat to the Bills. I don't think to the Jets if that really is a motivated Aaron Rodgers. If it's a motivated Aaron Rodgers and he's on, on the same level as his playmakers, I think the Jets could easily win that division. I think that Tua, for all the greatness that he did, and I heard about it all season long, Tua is undefeated when he starts all his games and finishes, blah, 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 blah. I didn't think he was great coming out of Bama, and I'm a Bama guy.
I'm really surprised because I know how much you love Alabama.
I didn't have any because I think I was telling Keith, I was like, we don't put out quarterbacks, we put out receivers and running backs, and then some defensive backs and stuff like that. Like we haven't really had, a great quarterback in a long while. I just don't think. I don't think so. I don't trust Tua. I think like I said, when the Bills window to beat the Chiefs and get to the Super Bowl was that 13-second game. I think the Dolphins had 3 chances, 2 of them with Tua, to beat the Bills, and they couldn't do it. And that was with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and all of that. And I don't know if they're trying to pull the Rams thing and get all these high quality players, think it's going to push them to a Super Bowl, but McDaniel and his vape smoking self, I just don't think they got it.
Well, don't forget though, and we haven't even talked about, they brought in Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
All the defenses that are leading the NFL are copying or have Vic Fangio disciples. I mean, he's been at the cutting edge of NFL defense for the last 10, 15 years or so. So, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No, the whole thing is that I can make a case for all 4 of those AFC teams. And even Cleveland, I can make a case for all 4 of those AFC North teams. But when I look at the West and I look at the South, I think there's just 2 bona fide winners. But the thing is, though, I am curious what you guys think, and I think we know Keys' answer because he was raving about who's the team in the AFC West that could knock off Kansas City. I don't want to speak for you, Keys, but I mean it kind of sounds like you're leaning towards the Chargers.
Yeah, I'd probably go, if I was going to rank it, I would probably go Chargers, then Broncos, then Raiders in that order. And part of that's because I believe in Sean Payton way more than I believe in Josh McDaniels. And so, and plus Russ looked like old Russ the 2 games that he played us with a junior high offensive coordinator, leading that team. So
One Pride 40.
As long as
Go ahead.
As long as the Chargers don't turn into a mash unit like they usually do every year, they could threaten the Chiefs. If they turn into their normal mash unit where everybody gets hurt and this, that, and the other, then Broncos will end up in second place in the West.
All right. Big Chief Shawn, One Pride 40 giving you some shit here, man. Who's the team the Chiefs need to fear in the AFC West?
A team. The correct answer is none. But honestly, but the team to fear, I agree with all of them. It's the Chargers. The other teams aren't even ready yet. Like, they're still rebuilding. They're still figuring themselves out. They're still trying to figure out a system. I mean, they're not ready yet. The Chargers are close, as close as anybody else is going to be to make a playoff run at least. So yeah, I think I'm going with the majority here, saying the Chargers.
I mean, the talent's there in LA. I have no faith in the coaching staff, and I kind of laughed at Denver for hiring Sean Payton because I don't see Payton and Russell Wilson working at all. But everything they've done, Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator, former head coach in Denver, fixing the right side of the offensive line. I really like their draft. Drew Sanders is a guy I was really, really high on, and then Riley Reed added pieces to a really. By the way, his name's not Riley Reed. I'm just having some fun with it. They've done everything right. Javonte Williams, if he stays healthy, can be a star. But when I look at the Chargers, I'm gonna say something really crazy. If I had to choose a team, let's just say Chiefs. All right, Patrick Mahomes goes down and I could choose any quarterback in the NFL, I would take Herbert over Josh Allen today, right now. And I'm going to tell you something. I think Herbert's a better quarterback than Josh Allen. I think you losing Dable, he took a step backward. Look what Josh Allen's doing. He's got a defensive-minded head coach, rotating offensive coordinators. His first start, he wasn't even getting first-team reps. Tyrod Taylor got his lung pierced, and he threw him into the Wolves against the Kansas City Chiefs. And didn't that game go into overtime or late in the fourth quarter? I mean, Herbert's the real deal. I don't think people realize how good this young man is. And last year they had Joshua Palmer, a talented player, a third-round pick who's just raw. We played a lot last year. He's coming in with a full year of experience. That's dangerous. Quentin Williams was my number one wide receiver. They got Mike Williams. They still got Keenan Allen. I think he sent me the article about I saw it somewhere else, but I think he sent it to me as well. But Jimmy G's not even cleared to practice yet. So I mean it's kind of the Raiders seem like they're just kind of self-destructing, but all of us think the Chargers. The one question I want to ask you guys, because we talked about a lot about the AFC. How many teams are going to the playoffs in the AFC West?
Since I said the Chargers, I'll go ahead and say 2. And I want to throw this out after everything you said there, Dan. Mm-hmm. The Chargers made the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't think people appreciate how horrible Lombardi was at his job. Best teams at avoiding third down on offense in 2022. Number 1 is Kansas City. Number 2 is Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Number 4 was Jacksonville. Number 5 was Cincinnati. Number 6 was the Giants. Number 7 was the Eagles. Number 8 was the 49ers. Number 9 was the Seahawks. Anyone see a pattern here?
Yeah, we're all seeing the pattern here. What's the magic number for the Chargers?
The Chargers who made the playoffs were 30th out of 32 teams at avoiding third down. That wasn't because of Justin Herbert. It wasn't because of his weapons. So in my mind, the Kellen Moore becoming the offensive coordinator there is going to make. And again, I can be completely wrong.
We
'cause
didn't
it's
even
on
talk
paper,
about Austin Eckler.
right? But on paper, anyway, to me, replacing Lombardi's ineptitude to have an offense with a talent as great as Justin Herbert's to be 30th out of 32 teams on avoiding third downs. 32 teams. Houston was 28. Denver was 27th. Think about how horrible some of these teams' quarterbacks were. Right? The bottom two teams were the Bears were 31st and the Jets were 32nd, which you could use for your argument of adding Aaron Rodgers to the Jets.
And they got a new
and
offensive
Nathaniel
coordinator
Hackett.
as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So
If Sean, I think Sean Payton should have took the Chargers job, not the Broncos job. If Sean Payton went to the Chargers, that's a 12-win team. Well, unless they have their mass unit injuries.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean I didn't realize I saw the same thing you did right before the show, and I'm not sure Kellen Moore is the answer, but you're right. Lombardi was just a disaster last year. And I mean, you blew a 27-point lead. Give credit to Jacksonville. I mean, let's give credit to Jacksonville. I mean, that was a great effort. I mean, kudos to them doing a great job, but hey, the only thing really holding the Chargers back, in my opinion, well, the injuries and then Staley. I want to read some comments here. Minnesota looks like they're going to blow it up after this year. Poor Hawkinson was so happy when he got there. He says it feels good to be somewhere he expects to win. Karma. I think they're going to move on from Kirk Cousins and that big contract, but I'm not sure they're doing a complete reset. Minnesota's going to be a fun team to watch this year. This is funny as hell. Am I the only one who thinks McDaniels may have Asperger's? People think Kevin Samuels always got. All right. I got a feeling Herbert with the Chargers is going to end like the Lions and Stafford, big numbers and nothing to show for it. The one thing about the Chargers is they traditionally have let go of some of their star players. That's going to be a very weird contract situation because if Burrow gets signed first, what do you do? Because
their owner is cheap.
Yeah, because because I'm going to tell you something. Burrow's going to stay in Cincinnati, so Herbert's got to make just as much. It could be a situation where Herbert leaves and it's some sort of big deal. And we just talked about it. There's a team in Minnesota that could use a quarterback. You never know. We could see something really, really weird. The Chargers get Ben Johnson. I agree with you, One Pride. And, I mean, all the talent they have on offense is just amazing. Big Chief Shawn, same question here. How many teams are going to the playoffs in the AFC West? We all got the Chiefs, but is there another team that's going to make the playoffs?
No. I mean, the Chargers maybe because, they added another slot just a couple seasons ago. But, I mean, maybe the Chargers, but if not them, I don't really see no one else. Like, it's pretty tight-knit.
What about Denver? I mean, we all said the Chargers were number 2 team. Is there a possibility Denver is going to make the playoffs this year? I'm gonna take that as a no.
Yeah.
All right, the talent. Gooch. How many teams from the AFC West are making the playoffs besides the Chiefs?
Hang on, let me think. Because you got to have your division winner, so that's what?
That's Kansas City. So we got Kansas City.
Well, I'm running down. I'm actually running down the list. Kansas City.
You got 4 division winners.
Cincinnati. Better than the Chargers. I mean, if Lamar and that offense is clicking, that could be them. It could be none. We'll just go on the side of caution and say one. But here's my thing I want to say when you're like, I'll take Herbert, kudos to Jacksonville. Was the moment too big for Herbert last year? I mean, he threw 4 interceptions to the same guy.
No,
Lawrence
Lawrence threw the 4 interceptions.
Was that him? Okay, I thought it was
Lawrence threw 4 picks, and then 3 of them was Asante Samuel.
I like that guy, Asante Samuel.
Asante Samuel's a damn good player. They got some good players. So here's the question though. Besides Kansas City, who in the AFC West is making the playoffs?
It's just so hard though, because like Gooch said, you have to deconstruct it, right? I think the only it's really hard, but I would say the AFC South only the division winner, which most of us right now are picking is Jacksonville. That division seems to be for sure, as for sure as we can say, on June 23rd is only going to have one team. You have four division winners, so you have 3 up for grabs. If we assume Kansas City is winning the West, which most of us are going to do, and we can all fight over who the North and the East are going to be, the reality is we're talking about 3 teams between the North, East, and West. And, we just spent a good time arguing that the AFC East could be any of those 4 teams. The AFC North, for the most part, looks like it could be any of those 4 teams. So it really seems like 3 of those are going to come from those divisions. And the thing we haven't even mentioned is, wherever D-Hop signs, if it's in the AFC, is probably going to get a decent boost in that. As long as it's not
100% correct.
As long as it's not the Titans, I don't know that really moves the needle.
I actually think he's going to sign with the Titans. I think Titans are Patriots, and I know there's talks, but I think when everything's said and done, it's going to be Tennessee.
I can't imagine the Patriots because of the Bill O'Brien, history there. But
what that is, and Keys is absolutely right. Like, I want to say the Chargers, but I mean, there's things you can't count out. Like Cincinnati is probably going to win the division, but if Baltimore and their offense, you've seen what a different offensive mind can do for even the Giants. So if Lamar is really bought in with his talent, and if OBJ is even half the receiver with all those other guys, there's a team. You have to remember that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, and Pickett played all last year. He's only going to get better, even if it's slightly better. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get better. There's a team that could sneak into the playoffs. I mean, like, I could say 1, but that's like tentative. You know what I'm saying? You've got the Jets with Aaron Rodgers and all their talent. You even said their defense is fantastic. Breece Hall is a man-child, and they've got weapons with a Hall of Fame quarterback. The Bills, even they've still been 12-win team, 11-12-win team every single year. The Fins were good last year. It's just, I mean, you got one spot. What'd you say? What we say, Keys? You got 3 spots for 6 teams, 7 teams if you include the Chargers. It's rough to say even more than 1. It could end up being where the West and the South only have 1 team, and then the other 4 come from, or the other 5 come from those 2 divisions.
No, here's the thing. I think that you're going to have the Chiefs, and I think you're going to have 3 teams sitting outside. I don't think any of the other teams, and the reason why is just I wouldn't be surprised if there's 1 team from the North and 2 from the East. Could be 3 from the East. It could be 2 from the North, 1 from the East. But
keep in mind that a couple years ago, everybody was talking that all 4 from the AFC West were going to be in the playoffs.
You never know what's going to happen. I personally think that the Chargers are the biggest threat to Kansas City, but I don't think Chargers are making the playoffs. I think that even though more, could help tremendously, I just think Staley is just going to hold that team back, unfortunately.
I think to take some keys or take some pages from Keys is, look here, there's a lot to say for stability in coaching
Mhm.
and what that does for an overall team. Because even though it's Staley, is that his name? Even though that's his team, Kellen Moore coming over is probably going to institute a new offense, which is going to take a few weeks to learn.
It's
You
their
know what I'm
third new
saying?
offensive coordinator in 3 years, and
Peyton,
that's like
Peyton
that's
coming over.
yeah.
Yay, hooray! Russell is sliding on the slide, working out. He looks thinner, but I don't think. I think Peyton took that job assuming Wilson could be Breeze, and Wilson is not Breeze.
No.
And stupid for trading Carr for basically a broken down Derek Carr, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere. It's hard for me, I guess, to be like, yes, the Chargers can make it. I think they're going to be a game or two out. I think they're either going to lose some players or they're going to lose some games that they're supposed to win. Still trying to come together, and Kansas City is so on the offensive side of the ball are so in tune between coach and quarterback that Mahomes can coach on the field, put them in the right and get them wins where Herbert's learning, and he's not going to have that thing mastered by the time the season starts. I think it's going to cost him.
No, I agree completely. I mean, 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years, and I think that is kind of the reason why Herbert's not. I think if they fix they think the offense fixed the coaching situation, it wouldn't surprise me in a couple of years from now we're talking about the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL both being in the AFC West. I think that highly of Herbert. I think he could be that good, but I just think the coaching staff's literally holding them back.
I'm gonna before you move on to your next topic.
Yeah.
I want to say something to that for Herbert, because the Chiefs had a quarterback that went through 7 offensive coordinators in his first 8 years, and somehow he managed to still produce at a pretty decent level, even though everybody hated him. He was consistent as all get out, even going through those offensive coordinators. He lost an NFC Championship game to Drew Brees on a muffed kick return or a punt return. So he was going to actually beat Brees. And so I don't feel sorry for you because your offensive coordinators are a rotating door, because I know of a quarterback that had to suffer through that twice the time that you did, and he still managed to be successful every single year, believe it or not. So,
and without the same arm talent.
So One Pride 40 has an interesting question. The only thing, hey, One Pride, are you talking about NFC or NFC East? I'm going to assume, because you brought up earlier the NFC, so I'm going to assume that you're the NFC East, and we'll kind of wrap things up here. So if anybody's got any final thoughts, but I do want to. This is kind of an interesting question here, and I'm kind of curious what these guys think here. I'm going to let them start here. Big Chief Shawn, man. I think he means NFC East, just NFC East, because he brought up the NFC earlier. Hey, Girl TV loves tonight's show. It's a great show. There's nothing better than a foursome with 4 guys. Nothing. Big Chief Shawn, man, who is the biggest threat to Philly in the NFC East?
The Giants. I'm going Giants.
All right.
Yeah. Cowboys, they always seem to have the right tools, but never have the right methods. So if I have to pick somebody, got to my head, I'm going Giants, 100%. Yeah.
All right, hey, Keys, man. I gotta ask you here. We'll go with Keys next here. NFC East. Who is the biggest threat to Philly?
Yeah, I want to go with Shawn and say the Giants, mostly because I'm that big of a believer in Dable. I am interested to see, though, what Bieniemy's stint as offensive coordinator can bring to Washington. I think Washington can make it interesting for that third position, but I'd have to go with Giants for this one. I think, to me, and that's no disrespect to Dallas's defense or anything. I don't believe in Mike McCarthy. I don't believe in him at all. So, if he wants to prove me wrong this year, he can do that. But I don't have faith in him. I don't have a huge amount of faith in Dak, definitely more than Daniel Jones, but my faith in Brian Daboll over Mike McCarthy is much greater than my faith in Dak Prescott over Daniel Jones. So I would have to give the nod to the Giants. And that's no slight to Ron Rivera. He just doesn't have the roster there. But I am intrigued to see what they, how the enemy can do on his own without Andy calling the plays for him.
It is going to be very interesting. And Gooch, is there any team that can challenge Philly in the NFC East?
Man, see, everybody makes a good point, and once I am rooting for Bieniemy in Washington. I agree with Keys. I don't think he has the roster, but from what I hear and what I've heard, he's been getting in there and trying to teach those boys how to be winners. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there with old Riverboat Ron.
Yeah.
I'm still going to say, and I appreciate the Giants' take. I appreciate it. And here's why I'm not going to go with them is because if Saquon holds out, now you're depending solely on the arm and legs of Daniel Jones. And I just have no faith in him, even though I have tons of faith in Daboll after what he's done with Josh Allen. I just believe that sometimes there are certain teams that can outplay. Like a lot of times we always say coaching is the difference between winning and losing. Some of the best games is just because that particular coach might be better or makes the right adjustments. And I said, if Mike McCarthy can get out of his way. However, even though that old adage, defense wins championships, I don't hold to that. I think defense will win them a lot of games. And nobody's thinking about we talk about the additions that the Philly got, but nobody's talking about those subtractions that they had. They lost some people.
They did lose
Super Bowl.
They lost several starters.
Right, from that Super Bowl
and both
team.
their coaches.
And I think that Dallas's defense for a while, and maybe even get them into the playoffs, and that's where it's going to rear its ugly head, but I think their defense is good enough to stop the Eagles' offense and make it hectic and make it a run in NFC East. That Micah Parsons did an interview, and he said with all the pieces they've got now, he's been able to kind of jump around into 3 or 4 different positions. And if you can have Micah Parsons with basically, I'm not calling him Tyreek, but basically the Tyreek start without having to worry about dealing with blockers and stuff like that, that's going to be ugly if you can't figure out where he is and he's able to wreak havoc on your offense.
See, I thought I heard that they were just going to hold him to one position, like Jerry Jones or someone that came out and said he needs to just stay at one position.
Yeah, and Jerry will say a lot of things just to get in the news, but Mike is like, he's been basically playing all over the defense. And they've been trying him out everywhere because outside of D-Law, he's their best player. And I think their secondary can tie up A.J. Brown and the kids from Alabama. I should know this. Right.
The Bama receiver.
And so do you think that Mozzie was a response to the butt push quarterback sneaking?
I think so. First of all, I think that's going to end up being – I think that's going to be out of the league in the next couple of years. 1, because it's ugly, and 2, because there's no real defense that you can call to stop it. So I actually think the NFL is going to say, for safety purposes of the linemen, you can't do this kind of quarterback sneak. And then I think Dallas realized after watching the Chiefs and after getting bullied like that and watching all the other teams, they made their draft was centered around stopping a lot of that. Because once you get the Eagles off the field, if you think about it, the one thing that I can say Kansas City did is if you can get the Eagles offense off the field, their defense is susceptible.
No, I agree with you. I think Dallas is not only a threat in the division. I mean, they could be the second best team in the NFC. I mean, I think they're the second most talented team besides Philly. And I mean, I give Dan Quinn a ton of credit because he ran the same defense in Seattle. He ran the same defense in Atlanta, and it didn't work in Atlanta. It did work in Seattle because he had the Legion of Boom. Comes to Dallas and does something completely different, and it's confusing. And what a great job he's done.
And I'm with Keys. I don't trust McCarthy because if you can't make it with Aaron Rodgers, you know what
I'm not sold on McCarthy, but I do like the defense. The defense is very, very good. And it's kind of funny, One Pride, because you brought this up earlier. We all four of us had different teams as the number 2 team, but I think Philly head and shoulders is better. It's just that they got to overcome some losses, and there's all sorts of question marks in the NFC.
And then on top of that, and this goes for every team, including my team, the Chiefs. What was a fluke versus what was talent versus what was a good string of luck. Jalen Hurts hadn't thrown the ball that well prior to last year. So you have to wonder, is there regression or is that actually who he is? I mean, he did get benched for turning the ball over. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
you've seen this, and players get that big paycheck, and then after they get that big paycheck, the motivation kind of goes down. I mean, what was his contract? It's going to be like $55 million a year. I think it was 260, 5 years, 260, something like that.
Yeah, he's got the.
Do you have the same level of motivation with all that money in your pocket? And not every player plays up to snuff after getting the big contract. I've seen a lot of players, get that big contract and then their play dips a little bit. But listen, we've been on for over 2 hours. If anybody's got any final thoughts, I'm just going to go around. Anybody has any questions? But if so, we're going to wrap everything up. I'm going to start off with Big Chief Shawn here. Do you have anything before we get off the air here, Big Chief?
Yes. The Chiefs are going to let me see. I'm sitting here talking to you guys. I love talking to y'all. So, but if I'm going to end on anything, I would like to say, y'all, it has been always be an honor to be here with you. Thank you, Dan, so much for it. Everybody who in here listening, please follow our channels. Big Chief Shawn, the Back Talk Boys. Dan, you're already following him. But besides that, I hope to see everybody out there at training camp and the tailgates.
Hey, Big Chief, a special shout out to you, man. Thanks for kicking the Berthas out so you can come on and do the show, man. We really
there is no Bertha that is more important than y'all.
Hey, man, we appreciate that, man. We really appreciate that. And also, man, I owe you a big apology because I keep telling you we're going to get together for some fried Twinkies and Oreos, and we haven't done that yet.
I'm a patient man, Dan.
We going to do it, and we're going to put it on social media. Like, we're going to do it.
People going to be so jealous.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, you better believe it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, man. I can't wait to see you again and eat some good food. Actually, be some junk food, but it'll be some good food, man.
It'll be good though. It'll be good.
We're going to have a good time. It's going to be on social media. We're going to post it here, and we're going to do it too.
At least it's going to be good on the way down.
It is going to be good. Man. It's going to be good. Gooch, the talent. Any final words, final thoughts before we end the show?
Absolutely love talking football. I think Dan should have me on more because, just because he's always like, I'm going to be on the show, and then he doesn't have me on. I have to jump into the comments. Only thing I have to say is I love these guys, man. Me and my brother Keys, Big Chief Shawn, Dan. Make sure you tell somebody you love them because tomorrow's not promised. So always make sure
Amen.
you're appreciating your people today, because you never know if today's the last day you can tell them how you feel about them. Now, be safe, enjoy yourselves, and I'm excited for the football season.
Hey man, I want you guys need to come back on, when training camp kicks off, but before the season starts. So like I need you guys back on. So and thank you so much for joining me. And finally, last definitely not least, is my boy Keys, man. Any final thoughts, words, anything you want to say before we end the show?
Yeah, I got a few of them. I've been holding this Gooch correction here, so he might throw back at me. But Gooch, I'm not concerned about Saquon holding out, because you got to remember, Brian Dable had an offense with the Bills that didn't have a running back either. So he knows how to design it. Now, you can insert your Josh Allen joke there, guys. But no.
I think we all agree Josh Allen's better than Daniel Jones.
For sure.
Yeah. I don't think we're arguing that.
But anyway, and I'll add to what Gooch said though. Don't tell people that you love them if they have a restraining order against you. That's not what Gooch is saying. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that just killed my night, man.
Completely different message.
Does one of the Berthas got a restraining order against you, Big Chief?
I wouldn't call it a restraining order. It's just a piece of paper that says I can't come close to her in a certain distance.
Yeah. And then the last thing, I'll just say this. I've never understood, at no point being a Husky kid, even growing up, have I ever liked Twinkies. So I've never understood the whole Twinkie thing, whether it's fried or not.
But
fried Oreos, delicious.
So me and Big Chief Shawn never done it, and we said we gonna do it. There's certain things that we haven't done that we're never gonna do, but we gonna try this.
Do the Oreos for sure.
Right.
I've had deep fried Oreos
of heaven
at the Mississippi State Fair about
Big Chief
6
Shawn,
or 7,
how
8
did
years
this
ago.
start with the fried Twinkies anyway? Do you remember?
No, I actually don't.
I don't remember either. But you know what?
We were talking about like eating like something for like fried foods or something, saying we never had it before. We were just like,
I'm gonna do it just because I never done it. And
yeah, exactly.
We gonna do it. And also I want to hang out with Big Chief Shawn again. It's kind of like my thing.
You guys want to eat deep fried Twinkies off of some Berthas? We know what's up.
Yeah, that's so happen. Why can't we have
going to happen? That's why I want to hang out with Big Chief Shawn. I knew he's got Bertha's there, and we gonna have some deep fried Twinkies. So
exactly.
It's going to be a good time, man. I need to make it happen.
I'm gonna bring some Bertha's, and we'll have some deep fried Twinkies and put them in deep fried Twinkies in their Oreos. They'll be deep fried.
This show got R-rated. We probably
why don't you just get a little kiddie pool and you can fill them with deep fried Twinkies and have the girls wrestle in there?
No, man, because then it'll be all dirty, and then we won't get no Oreos. They'll be all dirty.
Well, you got to wrestle them for the deep fried Twinkies.
All right, this just went off the rails here, and One Pride 40 says biggest threats to Philly: Lions, Cowboys, and Niners. We're gonna wait and see. We're gonna wait and see. And on that note, we're gonna end things. Guys, thank you so much for joining here. By the way, Big Chief Shawn channels, check him out. He needs to make more videos. I've been saying that for a while. You need to get some stuff pointed out. Back Talk Brothers, follow them. They post out some really great stuff. And hopefully I can get these three guys to come on again for another foursome, because there's nothing better than four guys. Nothing better than four guys. So that note, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see everybody back next Friday.